going to start by disconnecting our battery using our 10mm wrench. Going to loosen the nut. Work the terminal off. Do the same for the positive side. Using a deep 10mm socket, we're going to get and loosen these nuts holding our battery hold-on J bolts. Let's go ahead and remove our hold-on bracket, set that aside. You got to remove the battery from the vehicle. Remove our battery tray, set that aside. Using our 10mm gear wrench, we're going to remove this bolt here. Go ahead and remove this bolt right here using a 10mm socket. And pull that up and tuck this harness aside. Remove the plastic buttons around the perimeter of the upper radiator shield here. Use our trim tool. Go ahead and pop up the center and then pull this out. Go ahead and do this around the perimeter. Go ahead and pull up on your trim here, and it's going to pull out from behind the bumper cover. Set that aside. Pop these two buttons out. Remove the upper intake. Let's go ahead and remove the lower portion of the air intake. Below the intake manifold, we have our lower radiator hose here. Now if we pull this back, there is a horizontal bolt right here that goes into the upper part of the mount. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. That is a 14mm bolt. I'm going to use our ratchet and socket. And go ahead and loosen that. Go ahead and reach down here. Go ahead and spin that bolt out. There's our bolt. On the top of the mount, there are two 17mm nuts. There's one right here, and there's one to the left of it. We're going to get to, with a 17mm socket, a swivel and extension. Pull this out and make it a little bit easier to see. So there's a bracket we're going to pull out right here. that was sitting on the left stud for the nut that we just removed. Let's go ahead and get to one of our back bolts here. Gotta remove that one. Let's get our two front ones here. And we'll get the other one beside it. Now on this back left-hand corner bolt here, we did switch over to a 3/8 conversion here from 14 millimeter to a swivel to a long extension. We're able to fit that down in there. So we did apply some heat to the bottom side of the bolt to go ahead and break that rust free. Once we did that, the bolt came right out. Onto the center of the front of the car, we have an engine splash shield here. We're gonna go ahead and use our trim tool, remove some of the plastic buttons holding one side of this in place. And on this side over here, there's a 10 millimeter bolt up here, and there's a 10 millimeter bolt on the front. Let's go ahead and remove those. I'm gonna go ahead and remove our under engine cover here. I'm gonna use our trim tool here to pop these buttons out. I'm going to do this all the way around the perimeter. Now the two in the front center, we'll save these to last here. And go ahead and pull this splash guard down. Now on the bottom side of our unit here, we have a vacuum hose. I'm gonna go ahead and grab that. I'm gonna try and pull that off. If it doesn't want to come off, we're just gonna grab a pair of pliers and twist that off of that unit. So we're gonna roll our jack underneath, and we're going to put it underneath the bell housing of the transmission. We're gonna slowly lift this up. We're just gonna put a little bit of pressure on it. We want to go ahead and just get enough of pressure off of this here so we can go ahead and slide that motor mount out from the cross member or the cradle to the engine. So we went ahead and jacked up the engine, and we can reach down and you can move that mount around a little bit. So let's go ahead and slide this over. Let's go ahead and manipulate this unit over, and we're going to try and work this up and around this hose. Sometimes I wonder if we can just drop it down through the bottom here. You can lower the mount down and up through the bottom. Let's go ahead and feed our mount up from the bottom. Then we'll move our hose here, slide the mount over and into place. All right, now that we have the upper tab here lined up with this mount, what we're going to try doing first is getting the hardest bolt back in, and that is on the left rear side. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that threaded in. All right. Get that back bolt caught and then starting to thread in. Let's go ahead and get the other 3 lower bolts installed. I'm going to try and get this back bolt lined up. Squeeze our hand down in there, get these 2 front bolts started. So in order to get our horizontal bolt lined up and threaded, we jacked up the motor and we left the 4 lower bolts loose. That allowed us to keep our mount sloppy. We're able to lift it up into place, get the bolt installed. Now we're going to go ahead and snug that down, or get that in most of the way. So we want to go ahead and snug this down, make it nice and tight. At that point there, we're going to lower the jack or remove it from the vehicle, and then we'll tighten down the other 4 bolts. Once these bolts snug down, go ahead and tighten them down pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and torque down our 4 bolts to 47 foot-pounds. Now go ahead and repeat for the back too. I'm going to go ahead and install our upper bracket. Pop that down into place. And on the left-hand stud, we have this bracket right here. I'm going to go ahead and get that placed in. Let's go ahead and install the 2 nuts for the upper bracket. go ahead and snug down the nuts for the upper bracket. We'll just make that snug. Doesn't have to be super, super tight. Do the same for the other side here. Once that bottom's out, about a quarter of a turn. On the bottom side here, take your vacuum hose, line that up on the bottom of the mount on that little post. We're going to slide that up and in. Install our splash shield here. I'm going to start by getting a couple of these center buttons popped up and into place. Once we have these two center ones installed, we'll go ahead and work our way around and get the rest of the other ones installed around the perimeter. On the bottom here, go ahead and install this little tab into the well liner. Work our way to the top here. Snap that into place. And install our under engine shield here. Get a couple of our plastic push pins lined up. Let's go ahead and install our two screws. There we go. Let's go ahead and feed our lower air intake tube down. The bottom piece here will attach to your plastic intake tube in the fender well. Get this bracket lined up. Install the 10 mil bolt right here. We're just going to get this started a few threads. With that bracket in place, next we want to go ahead and take our longer 10 mil bolt. It goes through our intake tube here and into our bracket. Let's go ahead and snug these down. Let's install our upper portion of the intake. Line that up with the air intake tube. Install your two plastic push pins here. Go ahead and set your front cover in place here. Get it moved around your hood release latch. You want to slide this underneath the header panel here. So we're going to start on the passenger side. Just work that underneath. And just continue over to the driver's side, doing the same process, just working underneath. I can go ahead and install our plastic push pins and just continue this all the way around the front. Going to install our battery tray box here. Go ahead and set your battery in. Take our battery hole down, get our J-hooks lined up. This lined up. Just going to go ahead and snug our bolts down. And just make sure that this is snug but not crushing the battery. At this point here, go ahead and connect your cables back to the battery. Let's go ahead and snug these down using our 10mm wrench. Once those are tight, we're all set.